Sometimes you have to do that because the easy challenge is one you'll get lazy with. The big challenge gets you hungry.
Oh, how the tables turn.
That's a heavy topic, and we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then do it for your children.
Black book is in
Black
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that partnership, reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And I just want to put it out there. The organization I'm a part of and Dove Men Plus Care tomorrow, which is June 9th, is launching a campaign for fatherhood via LinkedIn. So what I'm going to say is watch the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel. I'm going to do a video on how you can become part of it. But basically, what it's all about is many dads, especially professional dads, when they get a new job, they like to promote it on LinkedIn. But why not promote being a job of a father on LinkedIn?
Like it.
That is happening tomorrow and throughout this week. But it's not about me. It's about all of us. So welcome, Kofi Sadat. Welcome, Kofi Morris. And actually, I got to put on this. Welcome to Black Canada Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. Now over to my two kings.
Yo, good afternoon, good night, good evening to everybody. Again, this is Kofi Sadat welcoming you to the Black Men Can Talk show. Great to be here with my co-hosts and looking forward to today. All right.
Peace, family. We're 1 week from D-Day. So looking forward to hearing.
D-Day, that was an interesting way of putting it.
Plans. Yeah, because it's the day for
okay.
That's often we talk about it. We won't get into it today anyway.
All right.
1 week from a very special day. Looking forward to connecting with everyone and hearing people's thoughts and feelings on today's topic, of course, and all that we're going to bring up in today's conversation.
I have a question. I got something to ask you all, about. Give me a win that you've had, and it doesn't have to be big. It could be what's a win that you've had? It doesn't have to be big. It could be a small thing. What's a win that you've had recently?
You know what? It's interesting. I would say a win that I have, and I'm gonna shout out my niece who just graduated from Trent University.
Whoa!
I was up in Peterborough on Friday to celebrate her, and really, collectively, she's had this journey of 4 years, and she's studying like environmental studies and stuff like that. Like she's really into the environment, and also from a cultural perspective. So it was a great win to sit back and see, my niece accomplish what she did. So shout out to Zoena Gray. I want to put that out there. So yeah, that's a win. That's a win.
All right, Mr. Morris.
Big up, Zoena. Okay, so for me, I would actually say it's more health related goals. We've just started out 21-day movement and meditation challenge. We've been running them for about 6 years now. So just getting into that space of commitment to self as it relates to this journey, and ensuring that I'm on top of those goals. We're about 4 days in, 5 days into the challenge, 4 days into the detox right now, and just feeling positive, feeling good, feeling clean. You know what I mean? That your I'd say internal, your gut determines what's happening up here, right? So feeling clear in terms of mind and clarity. So thankful for being in the space and sharing some of that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later as well.
Excellent. What's been going out there on the streets out there? What's been going on with Black men out there that you've encountered? Paul, Paul, you were at something this morning.
Yeah. We talk about giving our flowers. Maybe folks can see that, maybe not. But this is actually a gift that all Black men got today in terms of the events. Iron sharps iron. They held a intimate discussion with some Black fathers and Black men who are either doing work in the community to support Black men, Black boys, Black fathers, or they themselves community members. There's about 10 of us, and it was really nice. Troy did a great job bringing us together. And as soon as I walked in, he had a huge sign that said, giving, Black men their flowers. And I was like, yo, that's dope. And when they ended it, we got our flowers. So great win. I know that they're going to be working on some regular community conversations and hope to get Troy on or somebody from Iron Sharps Iron. For those folks who may not know who they are, please look it up. But it's a group for Black men to get together and be supported by Black men. So they're doing great work. So that was a wonderful way to start my morning on a Sunday, just walking into a space, seeing so much friendly, brothers and embracing each other. Some I knew, some I didn't know. I even, Kofi can relate to this. I even saw Josh, who is a young person that went through the rites of passage process, right? And to see him in that space was just beautiful, right? So again, it was a great morning to be part of that conversation.
Nice. That is good. That is good. I'm telling you, we are excited. We've got one person who I know, another person who I don't know coming to our conversation. I know, obviously, with Father's Day being a week away, we thought it'd be apropos to chat about Black fatherhood and the state of Black fatherhood. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll do some house stuff. And then we're going to have our two Black men on here, and we're having a roundtable conversation about Black fatherhood. And I have a feeling there's going to be at least a part two of this. At least. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Be well. Good morning, everyone. It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show.
My name is Ryan Knight, one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network.
What's been going on?
What's not been going on?
And that isn't how politics work.
The bills you have are a direct reflection of what you value for yourself and your family.
Yes, he is. Here we go. Created in Canada, syndicated around the world. All right, we are back, and we are back on Black Men Can Talk. And let's go to it. Let's get some housework done. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you also want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on, please email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. All right. So tonight we are chatting about the state of Black fatherhood. And I'm going to have Kofi introduce our friends, and then we'll bring them up. So, I forgot one last thing. Join the Black Men Can Talk Discord group. Email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Now I'm handing it over to Kofi Morris.
All right. Peace and peace, family. So I'm going to introduce our brother Warren as I have his bio. So Warren, Dr. now, Dr. Warren Clarke. He likes to go by Warren. So our humble brother. Warren holds a doctorate in sociology with a specialization in political economy at Carleton University. His research interests includes youth culture, social citizenship, neoliberalism, gentrification, race and ethnicity, anti-colonialism, and masculinity. He's dedicated much of his academic and professional career to helping Black youth overcome social barriers in educational institutions and in the Ontario justice system, which has inspired his work and research. With strong ties to many Canadian communities, especially youth-centered organizations such as Trails Youth Initiatives and many others. Warren is a brother who I met in community doing work that is more related to youth justice, and then now connecting to the Barbershop Series, which he'll touch on a little bit today as well. So welcome, Brother Warren. Looking forward to today's convo.
Warren, how are you? Okay, is he traveling still? Okay, we don't have him up yet. And then let's bring up Nathan. Can you do an introduction for Nathan?
I don't got Nathan. No.
Okay, well, we'll just bring up Nathan.
I got Nathan, man. I got
All right.
Nathan.
He's up already.
Listen, Nathan is always in those streets, as you can see. So I want to give a little introduction to Brother Nathan, who is both an artist, instructor. He's also, in addition, somebody who's a community worker in person. Currently, he's the program coordinator for the Baba Roots Dad program at a Delta Family Resource Center. So he'll let us know a little bit about that work. But he's a great brother we know of in the community, that's dedicated to the upliftment of Black men, Black families, and definitely our community coming out of the West Side. You know what I mean? So giving it up to Nathan Baya.
Good evening, Nathan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I feel like I'm blessed to be in the presence of so many great kings and leaders that have poured into me over the years. Both Kofi's, literally.
There you go.
Have poured a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge that have helped me to be a strapping young man. So I'm happy to be here.
No problem. Dr. Clarke is driving, so keep your eyes on the road.
Oh, I'm well. Thanks for letting me be here. Appreciate it. Can folks hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, appreciate it. Sorry about that.
Oh,
back.
Oh.
Can you hear me now? Is this okay?
Yeah, we got you again now. We're good. We're good.
Okay,
how do you want to, Kofi, Morris, or Sadat? How do you want to start off the conversation?
I'll allow my brother Kofi Morris to start it off, and then we can get into some questioning, right?
For sure. So, I mean, just off the bat, just looking at this topic, we've had many conversations, throughout the years, all of us, but specific to, Dr. Warren and to Nathan, when you heard this topic, the current state of Black parenthood as it relates to fathers, like, what's the first thing that came to your mind when you heard this topic? Honestly, from the heart, what came to you?
Who would you like to start first? Just want to respect people.
Popcorn style, whoever wants to pop it.
Kofi, can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yeah, so for the topic, right, of Black parenthood, the state of Black parenthood as it relates to Black men, Black fatherhood, was the first thing that came to your mind when you heard that topic?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, cool. For me, what comes to my mind is, the how much power do most fathers feel they really have when it comes to raising their children? Because, now that I'm a parent myself, reflecting on my childhood, my dad didn't have a lot of power over us. Seems like my mom was running the show. And over time, being a parent myself, I've recognized how much we feel like it's our kid, but we are oftentimes reminded that it's the woman's child and we're parenting under her jurisdiction. And a lot of us are not getting that opportunity to really do what we deem fit. And even if we do get co-parenting, that's half of time to create an entire human being. So there's a lot of struggles, I think, that fathers are just being limited, and even fathers who may be in a marriage and they're parenting the child together, they're not really being their authentic self. A lot of it is being filtered through the mother. So it's a tough time for dads out there, in my personal perception. So that's kind of where my mind goes after everything I've seen. And Kofi, as you know, you've led many men's groups, and the reoccurring story is dads don't always feel like they get to be dad. So that's my take.
Huge. Thank you, brother Warren.
Yeah, thank you. Many thanks. Thanks again for being here. I just want to also give Iron Sharpens Iron their flowers. I think they had an amazing start to the morning. It was one thing that not only to see flowers, but to receive flowers was very heartwarming. So shout out to Troy Crossfield and the Iron Sharpens Iron team. Dr. Vibe, it's been some time. Many thanks for having me here. Kofi, appreciating Kofi again, appreciate it. And Nathan, we met earlier, so I appreciate you too. I'm going to start the conversation with a little more positivity. I'm going to use Troy as an example. Troy has been and continues to be an amazing inspiration for me in the way how I approach fatherhood. Yes, the struggles, the barriers, the obstacles, the negativity, the stigma that attaches to Black men and all, and many facets. It's multifaceted. But there are Black men who are in positions and are able to father their children respectfully, positively. I recently became an in-resident active father. I've always been an active father, but not an in-resident father, and that's a difference in some nuance I want folks to really consider, because there are a lot of non-resident active fathers who don't get their flowers, and which something that Nathan was respectfully alluding to. But I do think that when there is an active father, either in resident or non-resident, I think their children benefit wholeheartedly. And keeping in mind every situation is different. The one thing that I also want to be mindful of, yes, there are some women or parents, but I don't want to, be misogynistic and sound, respectfully understanding the crowd who are listening, that do create challenges for Black men to be fathers. That is a reality. But there are also some women, some co-parents who work in solidarity with fathers. So the state of Black fatherhood, it's definitely challenging, but there are some wins that some Black fathers are demonstrating. In terms of how I experience it and how I show up is I do my best to be there for my children. The one thing that we have to be mindful of is how we show up, right? And sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes it's hard, it's difficult because we're dealing with so much as Black men. The one thing is, where is the solidarity in our community? How do we be vulnerable? When do we have moments of appreciation for not only our race, but our gender and the many intersections that follow along, right? The last time I was on the Dr. Vibe show, and I'm going to be controversial because I want to build solidarity. It wasn't a good feeling. And I left the Dr. Vibe show feeling that I am not being seen, I'm not being acknowledged, but I don't turn this into the moment to blame anybody. I turn this into the moment to how do we heal? Right? How do we get to a point of healing, understanding, and appreciating one another where I can thrive outside the Dr. Vibe show or outside of forums where we're talking? And I think that's a very, another starting point to understand what Black fatherhood is. Because we're not just fathers, we're also human beings who are being stripped of the idea of humanity every turn of the corner, and that's in our Black community and that's outside of our Black community. And I think it needs to be acknowledged. If we're gonna try to make this conversation where we're gonna start healing and providing supports, we have to have open dialogue and way in which where we can not only face the barriers or face those moments of tensions, but we find solutions to try to create opportunity to heal. So that's where I'm going to start, and that's where I'm going to take a moment of pause, and that's why I don't dominate. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, right? Thank you, brothers, both. I love that. I love the insight, and I'm, the wheels are turning in my head because I'm thinking, yo, these brothers are on the go. There's something about Black fathers and Black men that are on the go. So the both of you. That being said, we often hear that it's important that, especially as Black people, that we lean into joy, to Black joy. So, in terms of examples or how you guys feel about it as fathers, right? And as men, you know, what is the joyful thing about being a Black father for you? What makes you happy about that?
Hearing my son every day with his deep voice saying, "Good
Mm,
morning, Dad."
yeah,
That
he got
that
some
brings
bass
me
in his voice
joy.
now.
He's got some bass in his voice, right? And being able to so I have a mantra for each of my children. They're all different, you
Mm,
know. My son, I tell him, I make sure I lead with, I believe in you. You're a king. you can do it. You are, but most importantly, lead by example. That's most importantly. There's one thing that you can say something, but there's another thing in terms of how you behave and how you move in the world, right? So, for instance, my son's sitting right beside me, right? And this is another attempt to raise his social capital in the area of understanding what it means to be responsible, what it means to give back to community. The second is my youngest daughter. She's 10 years old, and I hope I'm not sharing too much of our mantra, but doesn't matter if we speak for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and I'm a non-resident active dad with her, but every conversation we have is I love you. So she then repeats that back to me. And my eldest daughter, who I love so much, but sometimes I don't like because she's giving me a hard time. But with her, it's ensuring that I show up and and do what I say. If I say I'm going to be there in 5 minutes, I'm there in 5 minutes. If I'm going to call in 5 minutes, that's her love language with me. So all my children are different, and um, trying to resort to one positive thing that I can equate to for all of them is quite difficult. But I find ways to show up for them individually and respect their humanity, which is very unique and different, and appreciate all the time.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Brother Nathan, what about yourself? What about the black joy about being a black father for you? What does that look like?
Yo, it's lit. It's fun. Like, it's fun. Like, at the end of the day, I'm just one of those, not to be negative at all, brother, but yeah, I won't lie. I've enjoyed some of the best times with my kids by myself, with just me and them. Like that was the most fun we've ever had, because we get to really be our authentic selves, and I welcome them with authenticity. And it's nice to dance with them, sing with them, go out and experience new things. And to know that, like, Brother Kofi, I've seen you with your son out before, and it's just nice to roll. You get a chance to show them, this is what I do for work. See how they drum too. You're drumming with them. Legacy, So there's so much beauty to it, that it does come with, some pain, but that's the concept of love, to when you gain love, you gain a bit of pain with it. But as far as the joy part, there's so much beautiful moments that makes every moment of struggle worth it. So the youth are the future, and we have to invest. So that's me.
All right. Vibe, you want to ask a question? I know you got a million of them, so you might as well start now.
Well, I just building on what Nathan said, I want to ask Warren and Nathan, what does leading with love mean to you as a black father?
I think it's a really good question. Thanks for that. And Nathan, I'm sorry if you were going to, say something, but I really like that question. I think we also think about what love means. I think everyone has different entry points to love, right? For example, I love all you brothers on this video call, believe it or not. But my love is loving your humanity and seeing your humanity versus I'm in love with someone. That's two different types of love. And I think one of the things that we have to really, that's why I really appreciated the Father's Day morning, I guess, service, we can call it, Kofi, or program, because it was leading with love. Those flowers it was a token of love. And once we can understand as human beings, once we can qualify ourselves as Black men, as human beings, not just Black men, but human beings first, then we can start to understand what love really means and defining it in ways that appreciates just being human. And most times, a lot of us, what I've noticed with many Black men is we don't love ourselves. We don't know how to love ourselves. And it's been a practice. It's not because we don't want to love ourselves, but we've been practiced not to know love or not to know how to love ourselves. And then once we can understand what that love really means, or how to define it, I should say, it's very easy to then say, Kofi, I love you. Nathan, I love you. Dr. Vibe, I love you. But leading that love with intentionality. And I think that's what we really got to hone in on, is how do we teach brothers, how do we teach our members in our Black communities, which is multifaceted to that, is how to love. And it's a really important topic that I would like to see where we take this conversation about.
Nice point. I like that.
Word. I think for me, I'm learning. They say it's cliche, but it's really the truth. Until you love yourself, you can't love nobody else. And I've learned to accept sometimes, you know, the way I look at my mom's parenting is she feels as if she sacrificed her well-being for our well-being. And sometimes I look back at her lack of patience, her frustrations, and I'm like, you see, you're subconsciously blaming me for where you're at in your health because you feel as if you're giving me everything for me to be well. While if you're able to take care of self while take care of me, that's true love. Because that also teaches me as a person, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I know a lot of us, I'm not saying it was done. I'm not saying it was their choice. I'm sure if every mother had the opportunity to love herself and love her children, she would. But sometimes things have to get put in sacrifice. But now in my parenting journey, I'm learning for me to lead with love, I gotta love myself. Like Brother Kofi does a lot of workouts, a lot of yoga, a lot of Tai Chi.
Right.
That stuff's not no joke. You need that. You're gonna need that. You're gonna need that. You know what I mean? So without some form of spiritual practice or something you're doing that will help you navigate your emotions, you are going to be very disrespected as a Black man in this society. So you better learn how to breathe before you act out in aggression and be put in jail. So I'm learning, like, it's really about loving myself, loving them, getting the best sleep, the best workouts, the best stretch, so that when I see them, whatever they got going, I can navigate. Because I'm realizing leading with love is not me coming there and yelling instructions, but it's saying, okay, I'm going to let you lead your life, but I'm just going to guide you on the way. Because I don't know exactly what God has planned out for you, but I know it's my job to guide you there. So I'm better off. The more I love me, the more I can love them. That's how I see it.
Huge. Love that, brothers. How often do we think about this word as it relates to Black fatherhood? 1, 2, how often do we think about this word as it relates to the areas that we need to work on as Black men, knowing that it's needed and necessary, right? What you just said, Nathan, with regards to self-care and how you care for self, reminded me of the early journey of fatherhood, and the fact that I learned that if I woke up early enough, I could get me time before I had the time that I was spending with my daughter for the day, right? And no one really taught me that. I kind of just learned it because I was like, I need me time as well. And I know that for any parent, the reality is when you're with your children, let's say if you're homeschooling or if you're a stay-at-home parent or whatever the case may be for a period of time, a lot of that time and that energy that's required to be in the child space is different than in the adult space. So people tend to lose themselves sometimes in that space. But that being said, I want to tie this love piece into the emotional vulnerability. And like, what does that mean to you to explore that as it relates to your parenting journey? Emotional vulnerability.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in on that just to say emotional vulnerability for men is very different than what it is for women. And I remember, Brother Kofi, we had a joke before where sometimes if you're financially stressed, better you keep it to yourself before you tell the woman. And now she said, oh my God, are we going to be homeless? And now you were double stressed before, more than you were before. So I'm learning I can be vulnerable with my brothers. I can tell my brothers what I got going on that's really I'm suffering through internally, because I know that they're not going to judge me. They're not going to hold it against me or make me worry more. They're probably more likely to help me see, hey, man, it's not as bad as you think. So I'm not saying we can't be vulnerable with our women, but we have to be selective about what we tell them, because we're still trying to promote ourselves to them as the leader. And oftentimes the leader can't look shaky. The leader has to look like he's ready to lead. So even the way we tell them, we have to be considerate. Because I think we heard a quote today where the man said, if the pitney are ball and the mother are ball and you are ball too, then who's leading who? Because we're all crying here. And then he said, if someone has to suffer, who does it have to be? And logically, it has to be the father. So I think just like kind of like what you were saying, like you have to lead with self-love So in those moments where your family is taking the hit, but you're taking it for the family, that you're still good in the process. So you have to have brothers that you can call that been through it, seen worse, that can tell you, hey man, it's gonna be all right. And I'm not saying wifey can't do it, but don't put the pressure on her to. Let her worry about the children and what she got going on. You take care of you, and by the grace of God, you end up being taken care of by them as well. But no expectation. That's me.
All right.
Huge. The Warren.
Yeah, vulnerability is a difficult task for a lot of black men to be. I think when a brother is actually reaching out and saying and how they feel, or how they are approaching a situation, and being open to discuss their feelings. I think we have to be mindful in the spaces and the people around us to have those conversations. I don't think it could be either men or women. I think, when we are being vulnerable, we have to be mindful about, what will happen afterwards in sharing something, but most importantly, how the receiver of the message, how will they respond to it. And usually, going to what Nathan was mentioning, everything will be all right. Those comments are great. But it's also important to acknowledge with active listening to someone who's being vulnerable. I've been very fortunate to lead the with community. Now, the barbershop talks will never be a Warren Clarke thing, but it's whoever is involved at whatever capacity at whatever time. One thing that I have taken note in is the space that allows young black men and boys to be vulnerable. And by saying certain, mentions such as, "We appreciate your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing." You can see there is a heavy lift or heavy weight lifted off the shoulders of many of these black men who've entered this space. And I think when it comes to vulnerability, when it comes to your woman or your partner or what have you, I think to some degree there is truth in that. I really do. But if you can't be vulnerable with the person that who's meant to be your partner, then I think there's something wrong there, right? I think, um, you know, whoever my partner would be in the future, the one thing that's important is I need to be my authentic self. If I can't be my authentic self, then it makes no sense in being in a relationship with someone who I can't be vulnerable with. But it also means, I've been hearing this idea of emotional intelligence lately, and but I think it also means to recognize how you're healing. You don't need people necessarily to heal you. Sometimes you just got to do the work. And that work means counseling. Work means, you know, actually critically thinking and understanding the situation you're in, and finding pathways to heal, or finding pathways to create those opportunities into strengths. So it's, there's no one right way of doing anything, but I think when it comes to being vulnerable, I will say it's really important that you acknowledge people who see you and validate your humanness, right? And if you don't feel a sense of humanness and being human, then you shouldn't be around those people. You shouldn't be vulnerable with those people. Today was another example. Earlier today, I used that as an example because Kofi was there, and Nathan, you were there as well. Where the space, sorry, felt safe. But even though it was safe, we're in Lululemon, where Lululemon attracts white bodies, right? So I'm also thinking to myself, how safe am I really in this space, knowing that Lululemon caters to white folk, right?
Mm,
And it's not a slight on anybody. That's just a reality. But if Lululemon then takes on the responsibility, the social responsibility, to partner with, say Dr. Vibe or Troy or Kofi in the future, I think that space can then be a space that appreciates vulnerability, right? So it's also about space and place. It's about the people who you're around, and it's a matter of your comfort level as well, right? Like, you're not going to go on a Dr. Vibe show and then start talking about your bank information. That's not how this works, right?
right.
So you have to know who you're speaking with at all times, and practice being a good judge of character with the people you wanted to be vulnerable with.
Right. Right. Um, so we do have again Warren, and we have Nathan here. And you did mention this, Warren, but
Yeah.
just for folks, and for the both of you. So, can you let us know a little bit more about what the Barbershop Talk is about for those who are not familiar? And Nathan, if you can let us know about the Baba Roots Dad's program, but you can go first, Warren. Let us know about the Barbershop Talks that you were just referring to.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. The Barbershop Talk series, Black Men and Misconceptions, it's project that community-led project that I take no credit of saying I'm the founder. I don't believe in those hierarchical titles, particularly in Black communities. Um, it started in 2018 and it was a beautiful accident. I didn't envision being a part of a Barbershop Talks series the way I have been over the years. And essentially, it's a space where we work with community local barbershops and hosting these informal conversations with young Black men and boys on topics of mental health. I know that's broad, but it's been a very hot topic for the Barbershop Talk series. Hot topic in the sense that people are wanting to be vulnerable to talk about mental health and the multiple facets that it lays in. We talk about fatherhood. We're talking about sexual health. We're talking about the ideas of Blackness and humanizing Black bodies. For example, we were in Driftwood Community Center this Friday, and we were talking about this idea of missing Black boys. And we're the idea which has been so popularized, but no follow up in terms of where are these Black boys that you said that were mentioned that were missing in social media, and the nuances, the intelligence, the brave young men that enter these spaces to discuss their feelings, their ideas while getting a haircut. It's really it's transformational. You're getting young men that's coming in, sitting in a barber chair, getting a haircut, getting a really good fade, and then they're just talking and just leaning into the questions to the point where they're educating me, right? Regardless of my title as doctor or not, right? So it's been very transformative. We've been able, I'm almost done. Sorry, I don't want to be dominant here. We've been able to take this project not only across Canada, but into the Caribbean. So we've been to Trinidad, we've been to Barbados, we're going back to Trinidad. We have Antigua lined up, we have Jamaica lined up. So I'm very humbled that being a part of this initiative, and it's community led, like I mentioned, and we look forward to continuing doing this work.
Wonderful, wonderful, man. We got
Oh
to give our
God, I didn't know all
flowers.
the that, boy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Point
Wonderful.
14, Trinidad, to be exact.
Yeah. All right. We're there. We're there. That might be the first Black Men Can Talk roadshow. We're there to carry your bags, brother, and support you in that. Bro, brother Nathan, let us know about the Baba Roots Dads program that you're running.
Yes. So the Baba Ruth program. Originally, I started working at Delta, I think around 2019, 2020. At the time, Kofi was leading the group, and Kofi instructed me well on how to lead, how to do check-ins and how to ask questions that would curate conversations that the younger generation and the older generation can all bond, where the older generation can share their experiences with the younger generation who's just coming into the experience of parenting or co-parenting and, navigating the whole situation all together. I'm blessed. I was reinstated at Delta in last year, and I got the dad's program back and activated. And yeah, we do our sessions every Monday between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it's just about creating a safe space where, like we said, men can be vulnerable about how they feel, what they're going through, and other men who relate to you can pour into you. And we have our WhatsApp group, where we exchange knowledge, wisdom, information, and just the opportunity where, if you're really going through it, you can share with the brothers and get an opportunity to be spoken to. Sometimes we think we can only help a man with sending him a money, but sometimes it's just a call to push that man to, yo, bro, go make some money. You can do it. So altogether, that's what we do, man. We create circles where we can come together and heal, kind of like what we're doing right now.
And that's an online space?
Yeah, so it's an online thing. It's virtual. We're linking up this Friday for our Happy Father's Day event. We're linking up at Taylor Creek Park, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Taylor Creek Park between 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be our first time being in person in a while. But yeah, regularly we're online every Monday, tomorrow, between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Friday, we're linking up at the park, get some food. You know what I mean? Just vibe. If you want to bring the babies, bring them. If you want to keep them at home and roll solo, it's all good. There we go. That's the event flyer right there.
How much does it cost?
What's the cost? It's $3.99.
$3.99, my favorite price. $3.99. All right. And I will definitely be there. I'm co-organizing with Delta. So come on out. This Friday. It's in East York, Taylor Creek Park, June 13th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll have food, games, entertainment, and more importantly, we'll have connection. You know what I mean? So come on out to that event, and yeah, I look forward to seeing folks come through.
Nice. So my turn?
Your turn, brother.
For both the kings here, I want you to give a little thought on two words when it comes to Black fatherhood and Black manhood: strength and masculinity.
Like what are our thoughts on those words?
In relation to Black fatherhood and Black manhood.
Can you folks hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you clear.
Yeah, I'll say. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan. If you want to go ahead, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead, bro.
All right, appreciate you. I would like to request that we reframe the idea of masculinity. The general sense or idea of masculinity does not belong to Black men. That belongs to white men. I think we have to be mindful when we think about Black masculinities, plural, because it's multifaceted as well. That Black men cannot enter what the idea of what whiteness and masculinity means. I think when we think about masculinity, particularly from a academic perspective, scholars have been very pointed in defining men and masculinities to white European men, while Black men have been always viewed as subordinate. And so I just want to just take a moment to just mention that. But it doesn't mean that we have to follow the historical idea of what masculinity or Black masculinity has been defined to be in worldly. I think we have to take the opportunity. I think segments such as this, or what Nathan and Kofi are doing, or even the Barbershop Talk is doing, it's humanizing men, and taking an opportunity to think through again, what does it mean to be Black in relation to masculinity? So when it comes to Black men, I think we have to consider that Black men are always looked at, regardless of your socioeconomic status. There's always a barrier or an opportunity to demonstrate or to challenge the status quo, to be human and to be a man, or the sense of man, of being a man, right? And that's always in contention with our being, right? For example, at the university, I'm always viewed as an administrator, or if I'm outside the university in the town that I work in Winnipeg, it's viewed as Warren, the personal trainer, or Warren, the one that works at Foot Locker. So these manufactured ideas of what it means to be a man is always pointed to be in this subpar or subordinate position. So I think it's really important that Black men start articulating and understanding themselves enough that they can also challenge that status quo, because it's a reality that's not going away anytime soon. When it comes to fatherhood, I think we can redefine what it means to be a Black male and being a father. I think that there are fantastic fathers out there. Troy is one of them. there was another gentleman there today who was he brought his son with him. I think we have to you start with the idea that there are fantastic fathers out there who are Black and male, and we have to lead with those examples, because it's another opportunity for us to challenge that historical narrative of Black men not being fathers or good fathers, right? So but what's most important too is that when it comes to just being a father, we also have to um, take the opportunity to really think and really give to young Black men in the state of them becoming new fathers, or those who are in the process, or just saying new fathers. Sorry, we have to really focus on how can we cultivate. I think what Kofi and Nathan are doing with their their initiative, that's an opportunity where we're really educating and really honing in on how to support Black men during their fatherhood journey, right? So I think it's a constant opportunity to educate, to support, but most important, we have to redefine these terms so we can live in a more positive light of what it means to be a Black man or a Black male father.
Word. A lot of beautiful things were said. When I think about strength and masculinity, I think how uncomfortable is a dad willing to get to create comfort for his children and comfort for the woman, whether he's with her or not. Like, what is he willing to do? Because when I think about that, it helps me see the kind of man that you are. Because at the end of the day, it requires a strong man to love, because when it comes to love, you got to love. It's not about you being loved or what you're receiving from it. It's about what are you willing to do to make sure that they're good just because you need to make sure that they're good. And I think that's how society judges it as well. So no one is requiring any one of us to be committed to necessarily a relationship, but what is a serious commitment is you must take care of women and children and ensure that they have shelter, they have food. And from there, I then see like, okay, that's how strong he is. He's willing to do that much to make sure they're good, So that's just my opinion.
Beautiful.
All right. Yeah, before I pass it, Kofi, just before I pass it, just two quick comments here. We have Frequency Event Promotion says, greetings, gentlemen. And then Inspired Thoughts says, if men were to lead with love, forgiveness, and change the narrative by saying they are co-parenting instead of calling women baby mothers, could that eventually change the way people relate to each other?
Can I respond to that?
Please.
I don't think by just changing the name changes the outcome. I think one of the things that Kofi and I had a really deep conversation on Friday. Kofi Morris, sorry, Kofi said that. My bad. I forgot there's two Kofis online here. We're talking about our own. Kofi, is it okay if I explain a bit? Can I go ahead and do that? Thank you. I didn't want to ask permission there. It was not a moment of regret, I will say. Is that correct, Kofi? Can I say that?
Yep.
But it was a moment of deep reflection in terms of how did we get here as fathers? And what would we do if we were to go back and do anything different? Now, and my son's sitting right beside me as I say this, right? And he is not a mistake. I don't regret him. I don't regret any of my children. My children are not mistakes. However, one thing that I am poised on to prepare my son for life is to ensure that he understands how to court a woman, but ensure that it is reciprocated. That is something that we do not teach many of our Black young men to do. We do not teach our young men how to court. A lot of young Black women are missing the values of how to be courted and also how to reciprocate, how to court. That is something that's missing in our community. We are very reactive in many situations and not proactive. We need to start thinking about what it means to really practice sexual health. And I say that not to start a conversation on sexual health, but we have to keep things in consideration when we talk about the baby mama. Usually, when we're talking about the baby mama, we're talking about someone who's not married or someone who just had children, usually. And we need to start thinking about how do we create strong relationships within our Black communities where we don't have to, discuss the baby mama or baby daddy drama narrative. We need to start thinking about, how do we teach our young men to look out for signs, but also how do we teach young women, Black women, to look out for signs that are not going to cultivate positive outcomes for when it comes to for child rearing or when it comes to be parents. We need to install values in our youth that really take a moment to think, all right, well, my son's sitting here, they mentioned, okay, yeah, my dad's great. I think I'm great, right? There you go. So I'm great. Dad's great and all, but I'm going to be vulnerable with folks on this call. But I'm not going to end up with children like my dad, and that's not a slight on me. That's not. I don't want him to do that. I want him to court one woman and trust he finds the right lady, not woman, lady. That's the difference between a woman and lady, folks. And being able to you have children. Now, is that a fantasy that I want for him? 100%. Does that end up 100% all the time for everyone? No, that's not a reality. But we need to start trying to prepare our children for that type of lifestyle, for that type of union in our community. So, by changing the definition of baby mama or whatever you want or whatever the term is, that's secondary. I think the primary thing is how are we educating and teaching young Black folk to court one another. Those are the conversation I think we need to be having.
Beautiful. Thank you. No, that's a great response. And of course, it's definitely a fuller conversation, but that's a key piece that you mentioned. We see it all the time. And even post this, period of separation, isolation that we went through, a lot of people are talking about the state of relationships, which we also spoke about on Friday, Warren, and this whole piece around the ability to maintain healthy relationships by knowing the partner, which ties back into our first part of our conversation, which is knowing yourself, right? Loving yourself. You have to know yourself to love yourself. Those two things are interconnected, and people often are pursuing relationships without taking the time for self, to know self, and to understand what that self-love looks like, right? There's something that came, and I wanted to tie it back because you just mentioned it too. Generational cycles and patterns. Right? What generational cycles or patterns do you guys see that we have to break, to become better fathers? That could either be generally or how you personally perceive that.
Right. Can I add something to that question, Kofi, if you don't mind?
For sure.
Because I think, again, as Warren started in the beginning, right? Especially when it comes to Black fatherhood, we have a tendency to lean towards the negative or the challenge. So I want to say that within that conversation, I would add, what are things we want to continue that's working well with the generation, with the generation. So I think that it's just important not just to break the chains, but to maintain the good things that are happening and leaning to that as well, that balance, right? So I'd like to add to that because I think, there's a narrative, that's out there always around, that's just a challenge, and a challenge is a challenge, but there's also the beauty and the good things that we need to lean into and continue. But go ahead, brothers. I think Warren is Nathan still here? Because I'm on my screen.
He said that he'll be right back. I think he may have some
connection. Okay. All right, so Warren, maybe Kofi may want to reinstate it. So
and like generational cycles or patterns that you actually either feel like you had to or it would be helpful for you to break, as it relates to you showing up as a father today, and to add to the piece that Brother Paul mentioned, things that you want to continue that maybe you inherited from the mentors, your own mentors or your own fathers, etc., father figures in your life.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. For me personally, I have to lead by example for my kids, right? Doesn't mean I'm expecting my son, I keep putting him on the spot here, but does that mean that he has to be a doctor like me? No, that doesn't mean that he has to be a doctor like me, but But the expectation is that I work hard, he sees I work hard, and he understands that for him to get the things out of life that he wants, he has to work hard. And it's not to say my father did not work hard. That's not what I'm saying. But in terms of the example and the opportunity to work hard, understand what hard work is, and not hard work that to create stress or to um, you negatively work against your body, but work hard to strive for something you love doing. I didn't put in my son's head that he needs to be a lawyer. That was never me, right? That was me asking him what he wants to do in life, and then he said that's what I want to do. But he also has different examples in our family life and among our family, many of our family who are lawyers. So that's the route he's taking. So the other thing too is I'm very vocal about his path towards adulthood, right? The one thing, here's a story really quickly. I took him to Barbados this past summer, and I'm a jogger, and we were jogging up this hill, and I purposely ran off and left him. I did it purposely. I'm sorry, Caleb. Anyways, I purposely jogged in front of him, and he came up behind me. He's like, "Oh my God, this is tough." And I said, "This is life. This is me preparing you for life." And I said to him, "I can't protect you. I can only prepare you." Right? Because there's going to be a time you're going to have to pay it forward to your son or your children. And I think for me personally, it's just showing up, supporting, but also providing a roadmap. If it's not from me, it's from my cousin who's a lawyer, for example. Or if it's not from my cousin, it's from my uncle who's the high commissioner from Barbados to Canada. Like I try to point him in directions where he can see what success is. So he can see what hard work is, but hard work that pays off. Right. So my I guess my way of stopping something, as you mentioned it the way you did, Kofi, was to do things differently in ways in which I didn't receive from my own father, right? And again, it's not a slight to him, but what I what I know, which for me that I would have loved is someone who actually took time and asked me questions, or took an opportunity to point me in a direction and show their level of ignorance and say, I don't know this, but I know someone who does. Because I think that builds trust and has built trust between my son and myself.
Okay. Kofi Morris, Kofi Sadat, anything?
Sorry, go ahead if you want to go. Yeah.
Come
So
on, you're good.
just reflecting on some of your work and who you are. How do you balance being a dad in real life and some of the work that you do? So we talk about the challenges of work-life balance. What advice would you give to a father who's in this space and struggling with that work-life balance? What advice would you give to them?
Can I be honest on this show? Of course I
You
can,
need to
right,
be
Dr.
honest,
Vibe?
brother. You need to
There you
be
go.
honest.
That was me joking. I'm just joking. Say no. Practice the art of saying no. And I'm guilty of this, folks. I say yes to almost everything. Almost everything. Actually, no, I say yes to everything. And I'm trying my best to say no to many things, right? I think what we learned today, Kofi said that respectfully. You know, Troy was very vulnerable with us this morning, very vulnerable. But I also think, as I said to him, there's moments where he needs to take time for himself, right? The community. I know Louis March he mentioned today. I think Louis March showed us how to live, and there was examples of him showing us how to live and sustain this work. And some of the examples that I think Louis was showing us was saying, hey, this is great what I'm doing, but also reflect on things that I'm doing that may not work for you. And I remember having those conversations with him, particularly in the last years of his life, where it's like, we need to understand that we're also a human being in this space. And a lot of us, don't do so well in that in that category because, there's economic pressures. There's pressures to sustain the work that's so positive and so rich. And people are saying, yes, more and more and more. But at the end of the day, you're still a father, or you still have, your career. Many of us who are doing this work are doing 3-4 jobs and then doing this on the side, right? I think we have to really be mindful of the amount of labor that we are pumping into this work. Our labor can only be extended so much, right? I have 3 children, right? And my youngest is demanding. So is all of my children are demanding, rightfully so, right? It's not me, calling out any of my children, but I have to ensure that I make time for them, right? So Fridays, for example, and for those who want to hear my critical path, Fridays is usually time for just me and my son. Friday nights, I ensure that when I am not an in-resident dad for my daughters in Toronto, but when it's their time, I give them my undivided attention, and I make sure that if anybody calls, I ignore that call, or I make sure if I have to call somebody up back at a certain time, I say, listen, this is my time for my kid. We have to be intentional that way. We also have to, Kofi said that. I appreciate what Nathan mentioned about your workout routine. I think it's so important. A lot of us are not looking at our health and putting that as priority. The foods that we're eating, the working out. Do you have to jog every day? No, but there's different types of level of exercise that we have to consider, because if our body's not good, then it doesn't matter what our mind is thinking. It doesn't matter what our mind wants us to do, right? I think also you have to be grounded either spiritually, religiously. I think that grounding will help us through to be the positive warriors, I'll say that, to do and champion this work, right? Like, and also knowing that Rome wasn't built in one day, metaphorically speaking. Why am I using European terms? I don't know. Anyways, Rome wasn't built in one day, right? I think recognizing that you can't get everything done at once as much as we want to. I think we have to understand our limitations. But the one thing I'll also leave, and sorry if I'm talking a lot here,
That's good. Go ahead.
is that we need to work together. Louis March has been saying that for years, and that's one thing I'm taking from him. I'm going to reassert it here, and Troy mentioned it today. We need to stop opening up a new non-for-profit organization and find ways to work with each other. It is so valid. The one thing that I'm noticing, like, folks, here's the reality: what's happening in our Canadian moments. We are in an economic crisis right now. Funding is going to be starting to dwindle or starting to be limited for many organizations. There are many Black-led organizations, and there are more coming. I see it in the university with these young people opening up the new non-for-profit work, and there's already one that exists. We don't need to be the leader. We don't always need to be, I'm in charge and look at me. It's a very white Eurocentric way of leading. We need to start thinking about if I'm interested in working on this project, and I know Kofi has a non-for-profit organization that's been working for the last 18 years. Why can't we approach Kofi and say, Kofi, I've got this idea. And why can't a Kofi look at the person and say, you know what, let's make sense of what you're doing. Let's take your lead. Let's trust one another and do this work. We need to start practicing that, right? Because if we can really work together on many of these issues, we can do more good than the little pockets of good that we're doing. So I'll say that.
I just want to add something to that, and I love it because I've heard it been said before, and it's a challenge for our listeners out there and even us here. The challenge is to find one, in this case, one Black organization that exists that you can support, whether it's volunteering, giving your funds, giving your ideas, your energy. Your challenge to walk away from this conversation, I agree with you, brother, is to actually support. Find one you could support and go ahead and do it. Don't ask permission, just go ahead and do it. So I love that energy.
Welcome back, brother Nathan. Welcome back. I know you had some connection issues, so good to see you back. So I had a legacy building question, which ties into what Brother Warren just said, and I don't know if you did hear the last part of what was just discussed, Nathan. We can always bring you up to speed, but this piece around legacy, and what that looks like, right? You know, what comes to mind when you think about legacy beyond just material wealth? What comes to mind when you think of legacy, and what it is that you feel we as fathers need to leave behind, whether that's for your own children or that's for us, you know, communally?
I think legacy is beyond just the seeds you carry, it's the influence you carry. So, how does your life serve the next generation? So, how did Kofi move? How did Warren move in a way where we were able to mirror, study, and be influenced by to be more in alignment with our purpose and our path? So, I think the number one thing we need to remember as dads is we are important in any capacity that we are in our children's lives, because our children are looking at our decisions, and when they become adults as well, they will get a chance to review them. So it's important that, you know, we move in a certain way where it's influential and it influences the youths in the right direction. So when I think of legacy, I just think, yo, what kind of impact do I want to have?
So again, example, I've heard that word several times, you know, in today's conversation, and being able to lead by example. Brother Warren, any additions that you have to that?
Thank you. Yeah, it's not only leading by example, but also, which I don't discredit at all. I think that's important. But it's also ensuring that you carve out a path that's reasonable for you, right? Like, I think mentality. I would never tell anybody, hey, you shouldn't do this, or you should only go this far in your journey. But we have to think about the path that's realistic for a lot of people. And I think sometimes sitting with an idea and actually really carving it out and getting feedback is important. I also think it's important to be around the right people when you're dreaming. You know, when you're dreaming and dreaming big, it has to be, you know, cultivated by people who are going to appreciate your ideas. So, you know, for instance, for me, like I know where my roots are. My roots are always will be with Trails Youth Initiatives. But it doesn't mean when I, you know, take off with my wings and go elsewhere like Winnipeg and doing the work there, or Ottawa or wherever, it doesn't mean I forget where my roots are. I always go back to where my roots are, and I always give back, or I always reflect. I think reflection is a really good technique to actually understand the course and the path that you're on. But I think also to be humble is to appreciate your ignorance. You know, a lot of people, it serves you no good to pretend you know. It's important not to. It's okay not to know. But the one thing we also have to strive and strive away from is being willfully ignorant. You know, choosing not to know, being closed-minded, right? We have to lead with a level of humility to actually appreciate our humanness, right? So yes, it's all about, you know, understand your legacy. But it's deeper than just your legacy. It's understanding who you are in this world.
Oh, we lost your sound there, bro. If you can hear us.
So understanding who you are in this world. I love that. I love that.
Well, I think on that note, and since Warren is lost, we've lost him. I think we want to wrap it up. Nathan, any final words you'd like to share with us before we call it?
Gratitude. I'm grateful that God has blessed me to be around brothers like yourselves who are willing to take the lived experiences that you have went through, and I'm grateful that you guys decided to be leaders and mentors in this world. And you know, because at the end of the day, I the things I know now, I don't see them being possible without some of the brothers on this call. And the things I know now are crucial to survival. You know, so nothing but gratitude for you guys. Please keep being great and leading the younger generation like myself in the right direction. I'll continue to pass the torch.
Wonderful. All right. If you want to get a hold of Nathan, the best way probably is to go on his Instagram at Nathan.Baya. So thank you so much, my brother. Keep in touch and keep the faith. Thank you for taking the time.
All right. See you Friday.
All right. And Warren, we've lost connectivity, but there's where you can get a hold of Warren, warrenclarke.ca, the Barber Talks. And Barber Talk has series. That's for the Barber Talk series. And then his own website, warrenclarke.ca. So, gentlemen, as we wrap it up, any final thoughts?
Yeah, man. And it's fullness. I feel full. It's been a full day from the morning with the ISI event, giving the flowers and communication, and then moving into this conversation here. So really feeling full and ready just to receive, man. Like I want to give it up to our guests, Warren and Nathan. Keep doing the work, keep pushing the rock. And we're here for that. We're here to create platforms for Black men to share some of the great work they're doing. And I appreciate you brothers as well. So I want to give thanks for that.
Kofi Morris.
Huge. I'm truly seeing the fact that we're shifting the narrative in so many different ways. The guests we've had on this show, the conversations that we've had, and the brothers that are doing the work that they're doing, and the work we're able to highlight. I think we're shifting seriously and on a great level in terms of what Black fatherhood means, what black manhood, healthy Black manhood means. And we spoke about Black masculinity earlier, right? Being able to challenge a lot of the narratives. I don't think these are things that our forefathers in a lot of ways were doing, that we're actively doing now as a result of things that we've seen and challenges that we've seen from our past. So I'm definitely moved positively, and there has been a lot of negative thought and perspectives around our narrative, even from our perspective, right? Historically. So I think we're shifting a lot of that, and we're challenging a lot of that by our actions and the ways that we're showing up. So even like for this Father's Day, I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing, the things that are going to be coming out of next weekend. Because I know there's going to be a lot of video and pictures and stuff like that, but just talking about how we're celebrating Black fatherhood and how we're showing up as fathers. So I'm definitely looking forward to, to next steps and how we're doing that. And then the whole piece around collective work, and responsibility, which is one of the principles of the Nguzo Saba that we speak about during Kwanzaa, but recognizing that it needs to be celebrated throughout the year. So how do we work together in collaboratives that are healthy? And within all of that too, of course, is this thing called accountability, and how we're able to maintain that, in our relationships and being honest and open and genuine with one another in that aspect of journey, in that aspect of self-development and communal growth, right? So that's a piece that we have to continue to work on. I think day by day we're finding the need to it. We're seeing more of the need to do it. And even for myself, it took years to reconnect with my own father, and then now it's a regular conversation, right? It's like almost daily we talk, but it took time. It took time to address the past, to deal with the present, to move into the future. So we continue in that journey. We're breaking some of those cycles, and recognizing the vulnerability piece is needed and necessary for our growth and development. So I give thanks once again for our amazing space and communal conversation today. Once again, Dr. Vibe, Brother Paul, we looking forward to next steps.
Yeah, I'll make it really quick because I know Kofi Sadat's got around. Make it really, really quick. There's so many things I could share. I think one of the things is Warren said, saying no. No is a complete sentence. We need to say no. Next of all, I want to emphasize celebrating Black manhood and Black fatherhood every day, not one day.
Love it.
And we want to make it where being a Black man and or being a Black father is a get to, not a got to.
You gotta say that again, brother. You gotta pull that one up again. You always dropping the dimes. Go ahead, DJ Dr. Vibe. Say that again.
No. Just saying we want to get to the mindset where being a Black man and or a Black father is a get to, not a got to. I want Black men to say they get to do things, not they got to do things.
I love it.
And then a few quick, Marsha Taylor said, this is what we need to teach our sons And that one. Oh no, put that one. My mom always said to me, don't run into anyone. Walk, take your time. Get to know someone well before laying down with them and making babies where you tie yourself to this incompatible person. She also said, this is what we need to teach our sons and our daughters. Inspired Thought says, agreed. Both young men and young women need guidance in developing healthy relationships. And Inspiring Thought said, I love the idea of collaboration. One last quick thing. Celebrated my dad's really big birthday the other day. We sat down and I said, Dad, what's on your heart? And he said, I always ask myself, have I done enough for my kids? So I just want to leave that, whether you're a Black father, male caregiver, have you done enough? Want to leave with that. All right, quick. Father's Day celebration coming up this Friday, June 13th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., 260 Dawes Road in Toronto. There is the URL. If you're watching this on any of my platforms, it's in the comment section. Kofi Sadat, you can get a hold of him. Email, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and another YouTube. All over the place. He's all over. Kofi Morris on his email, get well, stay fit, Gmail, Instagram, 2 Instagrams, by the way, and a Facebook. And then finally myself, there's all the deets there. And also you can catch me on Substack and Blue Sky. As always, I like to say thank you, everyone, for taking the most important thing, your time, to share with us. As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. If you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. And then also make it better. Celebration to Black men and Black fathers around the world every day.
Every day.
Everybody.
Wow.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Time that our parents, they're like, I have nothing to teach you. I don't know nothing. And they know
my dad's at that point now. It says,
That's my point.
But I'm saying, no, Dad, you got lots more to give. You know how cold it is when these two brothers in their yard.
You know that. You know that. You don't know that, bro. You know
No
that.
joke.
I know we all have these things, but you know what? My go-to is this thing.
Wow.
Black book. It's in the black.
Black
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book.